Good morning, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to Sports Media TV Unfiltered today. It's been a long 4th of July break. I celebrated my birthday over the weekend. Got a little rest for a couple of days. And now we're back at it again. And this might have been the most monumental Independence Day in NBA free agency history, as we have probably one of the biggest free agent signings ever. When we talk about last offseason, we raved about how the Spurs picked up LaMarcus Aldridge and then turned around and scored David West. Well, now we have a similar situation involving David West, Kevin Durant, and the Golden State Warriors. So if you don't already know, Kevin Durant has agreed to sign a 2-year, $54 million deal with the Golden State Warriors with a player option for the second season. This is huge for Golden State, and this is huge for the NBA because now there's a huge shift in power. You're going to see Oklahoma City go from possibly a dark horse title contender to maybe a 6th or 7th seed. Some say 4th or 5th seed, but let's get real here. With Russell Westbrook alone, they could not make the playoffs. With Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant, they go all the way to the finals. The two needed each other to get as far as they did, and they still did not win a championship together for whatever reason. And this brings up my next point about the KD free agent signing. He's getting a lot of backlash about this, as LeBron did about his trip to taking his talents to South Beach. Now, while there are different things around the situations, what the fact remains is that Kevin Durant went 9 seasons without ever sniffing a championship title. He went to the finals once to get steamrolled by LeBron James and company. And he went to the Western Conference Finals quite a few times to lose to the Spurs, to lose to the Golden State Warriors. And when you look at it from that perspective, this is probably the smartest move for KD at this point in his career. Let's put this in the horizon here. Kevin Durant is 27 years of age. He has about 4 or 5 more years in his prime. And he spent 9 years of his younger days with Oklahoma City / Seattle Supersonics. Sorry, I just finished a full body workout, so I'm parched. But back to KD. At this point in his career, I have no problem with him going to the Warriors. As a Spurs fan, I'm terrified of a starting 5 that involves reigning two-time and unanimous MVP Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, probably the best shooting guard in the league right now, and Draymond Green and Kevin Durant. Draymond being probably one of the best power forwards in the league right now. And Kevin Durant being obviously probably one of the best at his position. I think he's like right behind LeBron James. And then, there's other guys. But yeah. So, when I look at this Warriors team, it's actually terrifying. And then to make things even crazier, they pretty much snatched David West away from the Spurs on a veteran's minimum. I don't know how good of a move that actually is. It does not help with the Bogut situation because David West does not protect the rim. He averages well under 1 block a game. Not even close to 1 block a game, I don't think. And, they picked up Zaza Pachulia from the Mavericks after trading Bogut and letting Harrison Barnes sign with Dallas. So, they have good guys that can put him into that position, but obviously that's a weakness. And I was kind of like looking around. I was kind of looking around on the internet and stuff the other day. And I thought of an interesting situation that happened with the Miami Heat. Now, we all remember when the Miami Heat created that first super team. That first, young super team, Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, and LeBron James. Nobody would trade with them for a center because they knew that would complete them. And this is kind of similar because Golden State's weakness right now is in the middle, at the 5 position. They have positions 1 through 4 pretty much covered. They have plenty of guys that can play small ball 4 and small ball 5 when they go to their death lineup. But when it comes to just being able to bang down low, that's where obviously people are going to have to beat Golden State next season. It's that obvious. But what it comes down to is this. Is somebody going to trade them a championship level center? Or are they going to pick up a championship level center? Can they pick up a Boogie Cousins or someone like that? They'll probably have to dump more salary, that's for sure. They had to dump Bogut's salary just to get Kevin Durant. And considering that, you have to kind of pause and look at it for what it is. But will someone trade them that starting caliber center? Or will the league unite against the front and just be like, no, we're not going to give you a center. You're already too good as it is. That's a very interesting point. But another thing is this. Will this experiment actually work? I mean, the potential is terrifying. And PJ Carolizimo probably pointed out the best. He said the only way to know if this thing is going to work or not, he didn't say this exactly, but, his paraphrasing was pretty simple. The only way to know if this is going to work or not is to get him out there on the court and let him play some damn basketball. And let's see what happens. Just see what happens. Plug Kevin Durant in where Harrison Barnes was. Just find him, maybe 5 to 10 more shots a game. And that way, Clay will be taking his regular 20 shots, and Steph will take his 20 shots, and Durant will take his 20 shots, and Draymond will take his shots where he gets them, I guess. But it's important that they make sure they can balance out this experiment, because this might work to the advantage of other teams who don't have such a huge top-heavy power creep in their starting lineups. Now, what this does do for the Warriors is really bolster their second units, because as we saw with Oklahoma City, when they're at their best, they could take Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook and stagger those lineups to where you have one on the floor with the second unit, so you have a little more scoring punch in the second unit. And now they have 4 guys they can stick with the second unit and the third unit to make sure that they're getting the scoring punch and not getting beaten out, closing out quarters and stuff like that, which Golden State always closes out quarters anyways. And a lot of the issues that Kevin Durant would solve, it's not a problem for Golden State. And that is probably the most valid point that the naysayers about this signing have said, is that Golden State doesn't need Kevin Durant. It's obvious that Kevin Durant needs Golden State to win a title. And that's why he went there. He could not win it in OKC, no matter what they did. I don't think that trading Serge Ibaka for Domantas Sabonis and Victor Oladipo was going to help them win a title. It just doesn't add up like that. Victor Oladipo is far from polished in his career. He's not a championship-level shooting guard. And I could say the same for Sabonis. Albeit his father was a dang near a legend, he still has a long way to go. This is his first year in the NBA. He's not winning a championship. So, with all those things into play, OKC was never really a great destination. And I know I said in another video that he was going to stay in OKC, but that was before they traded Serge Ibaka. Because Serge Ibaka was pretty much their best third option shot at a championship at this point. Because they had to sign Kevin Durant, and they would have to keep Russ's salary on the books until next season, when he's probably going to bolt off to LA or Boston or somewhere. And then also, they probably would have had to pay for a better player if they didn't make this trade. They obviously didn't have the money to go out and pursue another big-time free agent like an Al Horford. Or, maybe they did, but, Al Horford didn't want to come to OKC. A lot of guys didn't want to come to OKC. So you have to take that into account as well. Now, they do have Steven Adams and Enes Kanter in the middle. OKC does. So they should be okay. They have youth on their side, and they can find another star pretty easily. They shouldn't have a problem finding another star to build around, or another couple of stars to build around, because Sam Presti is an exceptional GM, and I don't think people give him enough credit, because when you look at what Sam Presti has done for KD, he found the best talent possible. And yes, they did have a championship roster, but they didn't have enough of a championship roster to compete with the Warriors. Now, they did beat the Spurs, but I would say it's more because the Spurs are just old. Not because their roster is better than the Spurs. No, their roster is probably like 6 years younger than what the Spurs roster was last year. And that might not change this year either, because obviously the Spurs signed Pau Gasol. And we'll get to that in a second. But when we're talking about Kevin Durant, At this point, like I said, this is the best move for KD. That's the first thing. Kevin Durant, at this point, in Golden State, is probably going to be a second option. Who knows? He may be a third scoring option. Who knows? Maybe they just might have 1A, 1B, and 1C scoring options. Who knows? But all we do know is a lot of threes are going to be chucked up into the air. The Warriors attempted the most three-pointers last season. Expect that to not change. Like, their three-point attempts might double this season because now they have more of a reason to play that style of Warriors basketball where they're just coming straight down and they're spacing the floor, they're dragging the teams all the way out there, and they're just firing up open threes. And this is what the Warriors do best. And this is probably why KD is the best fit, because he does allow for the Warriors to be a little bit more versatile in that play style of run and gun, because KD can post up the occasional smaller player. He's not the strongest guy around, that's for damn sure. But he can produce on some post-ups. He was second in points per possessions on post-ups to one David West of the San Antonio Spurs, who only logged about 10 to 20 minutes a game. So, obviously, he wasn't playing starter minutes, and he was at the top of the league in post-ups, basically because he's a back-to-the-basket big man, face-up four. But Kevin Durant can do that as well. You guys don't understand how great that water is right now. But back to what I was saying. Kevin Durant can also get to the hoop, just like Steph and Klay can, but now you have four guys that can get to the hoop and make a play, which adds to Golden State's potency. Now, the main concern might be is how is he going to do closing out games? Is he going to turn the ball over? Is he gonna play like a superstar closing out games? He didn't do that in OKC, obviously. I don't expect him to do that here. But that's what Curry's for. More often than not, Curry and Thompson are the guys you want with the ball in their hands in the clutch. KD would go get you a bucket in the clutch every now and then, but him and Russell Westbrook have proven to have the highest probability to choke games away. So this is another great opportunity for Kevin Durant to mask one of his biggest weaknesses, really. Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green will be able to mask the fact that KD can disappear in fourth quarters, because the work that KD does in three quarters will help the Warriors stay afloat even better than they did last year. And then you can rely on Curry, Thompson, and Green to come out of nowhere and just close out games, because now you have to worry about Kevin Durant in the fourth quarter. He chokes, but you can't just ignore him. He's not going to clank open jumpers all the time in the fourth quarter. Don't get me wrong. So, because you have to guard Kevin Durant, this makes it easier for Curry and Thompson and Green to close out games. And maybe this will come into effect. We don't know yet. The season hasn't started. Now, let's talk about some other free agent signings, because a lot of signings went down. Evan Turner signed a $70 million contract to the Portland Trail Blazers. Why? Because the Portland Trail Blazers are pretty much desperate at this point. Their plans have all failed. None of the free agents they pursued came to them. So now they have to deal with overpaying mid-tier free agents like Evan Turner, an exceptional playmaker, a great defensive player. He can make plays, so that's an upgrade, kind of. Defense, he plays pretty good defense, but so does Al-Farouq Aminu. And Al-Farouq Aminu is a relatively better three-point shooter than Evan Turner is. So at least you can rely on Al-Farouq Aminu to hit a corner three ball every now and then. As with Evan Turner, well, no. The proclaimed, what did he call himself, the king of mid-range? That shoots 31% from mid-range. I think Steph Curry shoots 45% from mid-range. You're not the king of anything there. But anyways, still a good player, not worth $70 million. More signings. Joakim Noah to the Knicks. $18 million a year is a lot for Joakim Noah, who hasn't even played that many games. Derrick Rose to the Knicks through trade. Pretty good upgrade at the point guard position. Let's hope he stays healthy. When we talk about some of these other teams, though, the Boston Celtics, man, did they score a big one. Al Horford, 4 years, $113 million. And you know what? That's a fair deal. That is a fair deal. Here's why. The Memphis Grizzlies paid Mike Conley $153 million. Really? Mike Conley, the no-time All-Star. Now, he should be an All-Star in my opinion. But here's my problem with this signing, with this deal for the Grizzlies. You paid $153 million for Mike Conley, and then you overpay for Chandler Parsons, who is injury prone and pretty much left the Mavericks high and dry after playing half a season. This doesn't equate to me. This doesn't make sense to me. Because, yes, Chandler Parsons is a great recruiter, but that doesn't win you basketball games. Not everybody wants to play with Chandler Parsons because guess what? The dude don't play no games. So, my problem with this signing is this. You overpaid for two players. Now, Mike Conley, I understand. He's a homegrown product. If he went somewhere else, you'd be even more monumentally screwed than you already are. But now you went from almost going into a rebuilding stage to now having Mike Conley. You still got Marc Gasol. You got Zach Randolph, who's still giving you a double-double every game. And you got an all-star Marc Gasol, who's going to be back healthy. So you have a core. You have a chance. They're actually better than OKC now because they kept Mike Conley. So in that respect, it was a good signing. But $153 million, I really think Mike Conley would have taken less than that. When we're talking about a max deal, you're talking about the max being like, what, $25 million usually? And yes, Mike Conley's max was like $30 million, but I think Mike could have settled for $25. If they would have talked him down just a little bit lower, you could have saved a little money on the cap and probably signed another key role player. Just my 2 cents about the whole matter. Now, the Spurs signed Pau Gasol. And then they brought aboard Ryan Arcidiacono, the undrafted point guard out of Vanderbilt. And they brought on board Bryn Forbes, who was undrafted as well. Last time I do that, I promise. Here's my thing about the Spurs this season. I see a lot of positive things about their signings. They brought aboard Pau Gasol for a 2-year, $30 million deal, no player option, so that means Pau Gasol wants to stay for, the whole stint of the contract. He wants to see this out to the end, which is a good sign because we don't need a David West situation. I mean, luckily David West came pretty freaking cheap, so it wasn't a big deal. But with Pau Gasol, $30 million, you better be staying for the whole 2 years because we ain't got... The Spurs don't have money. The Spurs are one of those teams. They don't have money to waste on people that are going to run away after 1 year. They don't have the money to waste on that. They don't. They're a team that has been in the championship race ever since 1997, and they haven't got a lottery pick since then. And they've had to rely on their team success to stay relevant. And it's worked flawlessly. Because they are, I think, the most dominant franchise in all of sports. When you talk about the accolades that they've completed and the way they've been so contingent in keeping players around and doing all the right things. Now, enough about the Love Fest. Forget the Love Fest. Let's talk about these signings. First thing, Pau Gasol. Great passer, can put it on the floor, very finesse. He's just like LaMarcus Aldridge, except he's Spanish. And not quite as big. And that might be a good thing. Because the Spurs need to get a little bit faster. And people say Pau Gasol is old and slow, but looking at those Bulls highlights from these past 2 seasons, he don't look very old and slow to me. I mean, he's putting up a double-double with ease out there. Silky smooth jump shot. The free throw stroke is amazing. can hit the three ball, can put it on the floor, can pass it. My goodness, what does he not do? Now, on defense, we might have a problem there. But he's around so many decent and above-average defenders, I think it's not going to be a problem. Because usually, Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green don't let people into the paint anyways. People don't get into the paint against the Spurs. They have to beat the Spurs from three. It's always been the Spurs' mantra. And even at that, the Spurs are one of the best teams in the league at defending the three. That's not going to change. In the paint, though, his length is what matters. Because, yeah, his pick-and-roll coverage sucks. You know what? So does Hassan Whiteside's. But guess what? He's a legit 7-footer, much like Hassan Whiteside. So guess what? It doesn't matter. Because Pau Gasol has proven that he can get you a couple of blocks a game. And that's good enough for us, I think. For what the Spurs need, that's good enough. Because LaMarcus will block a few shots for you. Pau Gasol will block a few shots for you. LaMarcus will get out there and defend the pick-and-roll pretty well. He's a pretty good help defender. And you still have Duncan, who's supposed to be coming back off the bench. And you have Ginobili, who's probably going to re-sign. So you have experienced guys who can teach him the defensive system and the principles alongside of Greg Popovich. That's not a problem. So this Pau Gasol signing was probably the best thing ever for them. It was a great fit. They picked up Ryan Arcidiacono from Vanderbilt, another great pickup. They're just trying to fill in the holes, obviously. The Spurs have a long ways to go to be at their best form. But what's amazing about this is that this happens every year. This happens every year for San Antonio and a select few other teams that you think would stay out of relevancy. Another example of this is the Mavericks. These guys made a complete 720 in free agency. I mean, you thought they were like straight lottery bound, having to rely on Darren Williams and Dirk Nowitzki. We were wrong. They pick up a young, hungry Harrison Barnes, coming off of disappointing finals, ready to prove himself worthy of being a superstar. Harrison Barnes is going to put in work next year. Believe that. They pick up Andrew Bogut. He's not the youngest guy, but my God, is he an upgrade. He's going to be able to make those amazing passes in Dallas' offense and help move the ball. He's going to protect the rim for Dallas, something they haven't had in a long time. Ever since Dirk left his prime, they haven't had a rim protector in a while. And now they have one. He's a sound defender. He's a good passer. He won't give you much on offense, but they don't need much on offense from him. They have enough firepower. They're just fine. They re-signed Dwight Powell, an up-and-coming big man who's very athletic, very fast and quick. Justin Anderson's only going to get better. He's going to be one of the top 3-and-D players in a couple of years, guys. Look out. So I'm glad they retained him. With that being said, the obvious big winner in free agency this year, Golden State Warriors, hands down. Second, San Antonio Spurs. Third, Mavericks. Fourth, Boston. Everyone else lost. Oh, Atlanta picked up Dwight Howard, who's also working on his jump shot, which is I'm happy to see. His form is looking much better than it's looked in the past years. Dwight seems very serious this year. And if he's serious, I think he can help Atlanta contend for the Eastern Conference Championship with the Cavs. I think he can. The Atlanta Hawks are a good team. They just need somebody to be a star. And they have one star in Paul Millsap. So maybe Dwight Howard can help them. Who knows? Alright, guys. Thanks for tuning in, man. Once again, thanks for tuning into the show. Have a great day, everybody. And we out.